Here, 30 years ago, Clifford McBride led a voyage into deep space, but the ship and crew were never heard from again. Now his son, a fearless astronaut, must embark on a daring mission to Neptune to uncover the truth about his missing father and a mysterious power surge that threatens the stability of the universe. Okay, so as I sit here slightly perplexed as to what this movie is about, I'm arriving at several possibilities. Unfortunately, there could have been so many answers. There could have been so many things left up to interpretation, unanswered questions that could have led this film to achieving some sort of higher understanding or higher resolution. Unfortunately, this is not at all what happened. As I witnessed unbelievable and astounding cinematography, an edgy and nihilistic dark musical score, a slightly reminiscent hero who is called to action and reluctantly adheres to it, he is then propelled into a hero's journey, a journey that is almost open-ended because of its lengthy space travel, and the possibility of no return, and characters that seem to be inherently nihilistic as well. While all of this is happening, I couldn't avoid being distracted by the inherent shame. If you decide to watch this, you will find that the entire film is ruined. It is ruined by trying to make the audience feel shame. Now, I understand that people think of what people think of as masculinity being a bad thing and trying to make it toxic. I understand what it means to have a father who doesn't seem to care. My father may have bit off more than he could chew when he and my mother had 7 children. I can't imagine what it would have been like to have, what it would be like to have kids, and I probably never will, because I am fearful of what feminism would do to them. I'm fearful to bring them into this world because of the feminist ideology that has now basically poisoned our entire society. Would you like to know what feminism has done to science fiction films? It has ruined this one. Instead of being encouraging and positive in some way, shape, or form, the agenda that you find yourself being constantly berated with is designed for shame. Instead of being wowed by the incredible special effects, desirous to learn more about space, or even feel excited and encouraged about the possibilities of life beyond our world. We are discouraged. We are forced to feel, instead of all these things, we are discouraged. We are forced to feel awful for our shortcomings, feeling like we are supposed to open up and feel something, not being ashamed of our feelings. Have you been hearing anything online recently? For anyone who feels like this movie has a good message, I would love to speak with them about it. I understand what they were going for, and maybe there is even some light to be shed on it. Some of that to be recognized. However, the message here was too much. It was way overdone. It was just so overdone. It was. By the time we are launched into the ending, the home stretch of this movie, and we see our hero has learned to show his feelings by allowing his own father to commit suicide in the name of his own horrible detachment to society in general. The more I think about this, the more I think that this movie is a direct attack on fathers and their sons. When you make a blatant, horrible argument in favor of destroying masculine pride and heroism that used to be built on accomplishments, you only create nihilism in everyone's heart. How is that at all hopeful? How are you supposed to create some sort of desire for people to change? None at all. Like, all this does is just create more and more animosity. Nothing concrete was completed in the story, except that Brad Pitt's character realizes the consequences of being constantly closed off and wants to change. This part of the story is good, I guess. I will give you that. Honestly, though, if you wanted to make people feel a little more uplifted rather than nihilistic, then you could have had the father be changed by the son, like having the father actually change his mind, even though the father was basically just dismissed him and disowned him, didn't care about him at all. That was a big misstep here, huge mistake. Like, I mean, when you depict fathers as just being this complete rejection, like it's like fathers in general, even if they're somewhat aloof, or even somewhat don't show their feelings, or if they tend to be even closed off at times, sometimes that does happen. In general, they're still loving to their sons. In general, at least in my experience and what I've seen and what I've experienced, in general, they're still loving to their son. They still love their sons. They don't just completely reject them and tell them that they're awful. When it is all said and done, if what was accomplished here is simply men being able to express their feelings more by dismissing their old, out-of-touch fathers, then great. If there was a way to see if this was at all helpful in executing such a task, then I would love to see the results. However, I am fearful that this situation will be much more negative than that. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on this movie. I mean, the special effects were unbelievable. And just the threat that happens here, in all the things that happen to him, and everything that he goes through, and especially there's a scene with space pirates on the moon, and he's talking about here we are, we're just people just fighting for resources, and that was actually kind of interesting. There was definitely some interesting parts to that. But I mean, in general, I just don't. I mean, I get it. It's just that it was so overdone that it was to the point where it wasn't believable. Like, it wasn't. It's like they made out. It was like trying too hard to tell men that they're awful. Like, they were just trying too hard to basically just say that they're just wrong about everything, and they're just like, the way they act all the time is just wrong. And it's like, well. Yeah, if you're in space and having to do these things and to accomplish something, to get out to Mars and get out to, and then to Neptune, that's the journey that they're on. That's something that does require a little bit of focus and maybe a little bit less feelings and that type of thing. I mean, I would could probably see myself undergoing that type of pressure and having to just kind of buck up and work at it and just deal with it. But it's like the only enemy in this movie is the lack of expression. The only real enemy in this movie is men are evil because they don't express themselves, and that's like so. And it's like all they're. Women like men to be masculine. They do. And all of us here, there's a ton of us here on YouTube, and we express our feelings. But it's the whole thing was just a jab on masculinity in general. It was just weird. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I was assuming that there was going to be like a little bit of underhandedness, but it was just like so over the top and so overdone to the point where it was just like, this is absolutely useless. I mean, the only thing that he does come back a better person, but it was hard for me to believe that he was a bad person to begin with. Like, it was difficult for me to even say, okay, this guy was he all that bad? I think that, I mean, maybe it's possible that his acting was a little bit, kind of, I don't know. Who am I to judge? I'm not an actor, but geez, what the hell? It's just so weird. I mean, I get it. We all get it. But you don't need to sit there and put it was painting men with a broad brush. And that's what the Gillette commercial did. That's basically what painting men with a broad brush. Oh, men are this. This is what men are. All of you are just. I mean, if you want to have people express themselves more, allow us to express ourselves without criticizing us and calling us man babies. We don't like something that when we don't like our favorite characters. Just I don't know. I don't care. You can criticize me all you want. I don't give a